Hi, I'm Tiffany Kittle and welcome to Teen Talk. Today, we have a very special guest here to inform us about emotional abuse, Dr. Catherine K. Dalsgaard. She's a therapist at the Institute of Anxiety and Mood Disorders at the NYU Child Studies Center. She provides individual cognitive behavioral therapy for children, adolescents, and young adults. She also leads the Child Studies Center's group for therapy for socially anxious adolescents. Prior to joining the Child Studies Center, Dr. Dalsgaard was a treatment provider at a National Institute of Mental Health, also as a parent counselor on another NIM-founded study of family-based prevention. First, Jill Hapak will be interviewing Catherine, and later we will have teens talking about the issue of emotional abuse.
Relationship abuse is a problem that currently affects many young people throughout the country. Today we will be discussing the emotional abuse that occurs in the high school sweetheart type of relationships. I am Jillian Hapak, and I'm here with Dr. Catherine K. Dalsgaard. Dr. Dalsgaard has done extensive psychological research and has published many articles in scientific journals on topics that include suicide prevention, human happiness, and virtue. Dr. Dalsgaard, thank you so much for coming out today.
Oh, thank you very much, Jill.
Okay, let's start off by discussing what exactly we mean by emotional abuse. By definition, what is emotional abuse?
Well, you asked me a very difficult question right off the bat. The definition of emotional abuse is a fuzzy one, even for professionals like myself. It's a lot easier to define things like physical abuse or sexual abuse or even neglect. But emotional abuse, I can say right off the bat, is considered to be the most prevalent form of abuse and is, of course, always present in any other kind of abuse. So emotional abuse is always present in physical abuse or always present in sexual abuse or neglect. In terms of definition, maybe two things would be useful for you to know. The first thing is that emotional abuse is defined by what a person does. So emotional abuse can be any behavior that someone does to another person that causes that person chronically to feel poorly about themselves, to have low self-esteem, and to feel like they're no good. So I'm talking here about name-calling, you're a loser, you're a slut, shaming someone, telling them that they're no good, chronically screaming at them, anything that isn't loving behavior. And I don't mean, once or twice. All couples have arguments. All couples, people are prone to hurling names at each other during arguments. That should only happen occasionally, though. I'm talking a chronic pattern of behavior.
Chronic.
The other aspect of emotional abuse I should mention is someone not doing what they should. So someone doing what they shouldn't and someone not doing what they should. Relationships are places where people can go or should be able to go to feel safe, to feel loved, and to feel really good about themselves. So by chronically not providing positive reinforcement and support, that can be a form of emotional abuse. And what I'm talking about here is not telling someone how great they are, not telling someone what you love about them, not letting someone be with their friends. A very common form of emotional abuse involves separating someone from their friends, telling them they can't hang out with their friends anymore.
Okay, like you've mentioned, emotional abuse isn't really well known amongst people, but is always there in every other form of abuse. And physical abuse leaves marks and scars in a lot of cases. How do you identify emotional abuse because it doesn't exactly leave visible marks?
Again, that's a great question. Physical abuse and sexual abuse, neglect often don't leave visible marks or not visible marks that people can see. And so in a way, all forms of abuse are similar in that they're very hard for people outside of the relationship to identify. So I think what I'm about to say can pertain to all forms of abuse, but particularly so for relationship or emotional abuse, which is someone who was once doing well, who is now in a relationship and seems to be getting less and less happy. Maybe her grades are dropping, maybe she's depressed, maybe she's not eating. All the things that say, you know what, my friend was once doing well and now she's not. She's been in this new relationship and she's getting less and less happy. That can be a sign of emotional abuse.
Okay. After you notice these things about your friends and after you have identified it as a problem and an issue, what do you do next? What is your next step? How do you help your friend to get out of this relationship that is obviously not helping them?
Again, that's hard. Well, I can give you sort of two general points. The first is that people in emotionally abusive relationships, by definition, their self-esteem has started to go down. And they may not even know it yet, but more and more they are starting to mistrust the people who are close to them.
Okay.
Because they are having modeled for them by their abuser the fact that people who say they love you make you feel bad about yourself.
Okay.
So one of the first things that you can do as a friend is to model the kind of behavior that the person is not getting in the abusive relationship.
Okay.
And that means providing a lot of empathy and providing a lot of positive reinforcement. It doesn't mean going up to the person, being confrontative, telling them that if it's a woman, you know, your boyfriend is no good or he's treating you really badly. And the reason for that, of course, is that that person is going to, you know, the potential is the person's going to back away from you and not trust you, and then maybe even go and tell her boyfriend what you said, and then she's not going to be allowed to talk to you anymore.
Okay. Is it ideal for a person to sort of come to you and say, you know, my boyfriend, every time we're in an argument, he calls me this name and it really just makes me like feel so horrible about myself. What do you do then? How do you help her then? Absolutely.
Jill, you're absolutely right. That is the ideal situation when your friend comes to you. And treat that situation carefully, because your number one goal is not to get her out of the relationship right away. You're not going to be able to do that. Your number one goal is to make it so that she feels safe enough to come to you again.
All right.
So she's taken the step of saying, can I trust this person? Can I tell her what's going on? And you want all of your behavior to say, yes, you can. So again, you don't want to be critical of the boyfriend directly. Oh, he's no good. But if she says, he calls me names and he screams at me every time we're in an argument, you can say, you know, that's not right. And then provide positive reinforcement to her. Argue against what the boyfriend is saying. Say, you know what, and I disagree, you're not a loser. You're a great friend. Everyone in the school loves you. You're very smart and you're very talented as a cellist, whatever are her strengths. By reminding her of those, you're providing direct evidence against the message that she is getting subtly and not so subtly from her boyfriend. But you're also making it a safe place for her to come, because she knows that you're going to, if she comes to you again, she's going to walk away feeling like she's been understood, heard, and feel safe and good about herself.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I know a lot of girls or guys even can relate to me on what I'm about to say, but it is a nightmare of mine to see a friend being hurt and try to help them and try to kind of intervene and get them out of that relationship, and them being defensive and being like, no, but I love him, or but I love her, and you know, they're so great, and make up excuses for them. How do you react to that? How do you help them if they're reluctant to be helped?
That's a tough one.
Yeah.
And that is a nightmare situation.
It is.
Yeah, very tough. Well, again, I guess one of the first things is realizing the lack of your own power. So you cannot make someone leave a relationship. You cannot make someone think the way you think. All you can do is, again, continue to model the kind of behavior in a relationship that that person is not getting from, say, her boyfriend.
Okay.
So continuing to be a sympathetic ear, maintaining good boundaries, being clear with the person about that she can trust you, and behaving accordingly. If you're really concerned, however, and this has been going on for quite a while, you need to get an adult involved.
Okay. Often teenagers don't like to get adults involved because they're afraid to lose their friend because, you know, their friend's like, well, I really wanted to be with them and now I can't because there is adult intervention. How do you gain your friend's trust back after that experience? How do you,
Yes.
how do you convince them that it was for their own good?
Well, again, you can't convince people of anything,
okay.
right? It's recognizing
True.
the lack of your own power over people. That's a lifelong process.
Yeah.
So in terms of getting grown-ups involved, you know, grown-ups always say that to kids and adolescents, you need to get a grown-up involved.
Yeah.
And that's very hard for kids. You bring up a really good point, which is, who do you trust? If you go to a grown-up, what if the grown-up overreacts? What if the grown-up does something inappropriate and then it interferes with your relationship with your friend? So the most important thing is, when you know you need to get a grown-up involved, is to choose that grown-up carefully. It doesn't have to be, say, the guidance counselor or your friend if you think that person is really going to be inappropriate. That might be a good place to start, but it could also be, say, a trusted teacher, someone that you believe can be empathic and will behave appropriately and who will give you good advice.
Okay.
So choose the grown-up carefully.
All right. Okay, well, these are all great points, and I thank you very much again for coming out.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Tiffany Kittle, and I'm here today with some high school students to talk about emotional abuse. Today here with me I have Isaac Blaylock, Courtney Bell, Jill Hapak, and Jeree Steen. So what do you guys think about emotional abuse? Like, what would your definition of emotional abuse be?
Well, I think emotional abuse really is anything that can make anybody feel bad, you know, anything that makes a person smaller than what they really are, whether it is what you do or what you don't do.
I think it could happen between a girlfriend and a boyfriend, children and their parents, and
Peers.
throughout peers and anybody. It just doesn't relate to one type of relationship.
Have any of you guys ever experienced any type of emotional abuse or have witnessed emotional abuse?
I witnessed peers, like kids walking down the hallway, people making fun of them, kind of frowning upon them, type of thing.
Yeah, there's emotional abuse that goes on throughout school all the time. Every time you walk down the hallway or anywhere. Even when you're just walking down the street, you could probably see it between anybody.
Based on relationships that are like couples or high school, you know, boyfriend, girlfriend, that type of relationship, what type of emotional abuse have you guys seen with that type of relationship?
A lot of name calling type things, like degrading names and
Like if you're in an argument with the
yeah,
person you're with,
yeah,
that type of thing.
yeah.
Do you guys think that emotional abuse can also be defined of a lack of support for somebody or a lack of love given?
That and like respect too.
Respect, yeah.
And
Respect's a big deal.
that's exactly how, with children and their parents, that's the kind of emotional abuse where nothing's said. That's the reason why it is emotional abuse, because they don't show them that they love them, and they might not ever be home, and they feel like the children will feel like they're being neglected by their parents.
I've seen some abuse too, where the children actually say stuff to their parents. Kind of, it's like a reverse kind of nowadays, because the respect from the children to their parents.
Yeah.
I think that when you allow yourself to be emotionally abused, that it's a lack of self-esteem for yourself. Because, you know, you should respect yourself and know that, hey, this is not right. He's not supposed to be saying this to me, or my mom shouldn't be treating me this type of way.
Yeah, that is true. Okay, now, what do you do when you see people that you love going through this type of thing in any type of relationship? What do you do?
You just have to be there for them. You know, you have to let them know that everything is okay, and that no matter how rough it gets, you know, there's always going to be something good coming out of everything that bad happens to you.
Yeah, I agree. Go ahead.
try and build their self-esteem somewhat. Like try and talk to them, make them feel like they're worth something. That type of deal.
Definitely trying to, talk to them, make them feel more comfortable about the situation, but also people should probably try not to jump into the conversation or the situation. Like if a girl is being emotionally abused by her boyfriend because he's either negligent or, is like too controlling or whatever the case may be, getting in the situation could also make it worse because then the boyfriend becomes extremely defensive and it makes the situation a lot worse for the victim.
Or you could just tell your friend that maybe that the relationship isn't the best thing for them, and that they don't need to go through that type of emotional abuse.
Okay. What if, your friend doesn't, what if you notice this and your friend doesn't come to you about it? What if you notice that, your friend is depressed, their grade is falling, their grades aren't what they used to be and they're just sad all the time? What do you do then? Do you confront them about it, or do you just do you wait until they confront you about it?
I think you should confront them just if it comes to your grades and things that can really hurt you, as far as like say getting into college or something like that, then I think you should confront them though, because maybe they will never say anything to you.
Yeah, you can only like sink so far until you drown. So
I think you should.
Yeah. Okay. Do you think it's right to be like, a friend comes to you and says, "Oh, my boyfriend, every time we're in a fight, calls me some meaning like the B word or something like that." Do you think it's right to say, well, your boyfriend is a jerk, and just talk about, the person's boyfriend? Do you think that can be effective?